All right, so yesterday we were solving percent problems. Today we're going to be taking a look at real world percents. So this will be section 1.11 or 1.11, real world percents. Real world percents. So we'll take a dive into the real world. Now we know that percents are a percent over 100 or 100%. And we also know that that equals part over whole. Part over whole. And we also know, for example, this is something we've seen. We've seen 15% is 15 over 100. Okay, so we know percent over 100% is equal to part over whole, which is also equal to 15 over 100, or any number over 100. So let's take a look at the steps to solve. What are the steps to solve real world percents? Well, steps to solve include number one. Step one is to write proportions with labels. Write proportions with labels. That's step one. Step two is cross multiply. I enjoy this. I enjoy cross multiplication. This is fun. Cross multiply is step two. And step three is solve for x. Solve for x. Okay? So step one is write proportions with labels. Step two is cross multiply. And step three is solve for x. So let's take a look at an example. Example one says 30% of the school is sixth grade. Sixth grade. And you can just abbreviate GR. 70 students in total. There are 70 total students. How many are sixth grade? How many are sixth grade? How many are sixth grade? Okay. So step one says to write proportions with labels. So we know 30% is your percent, so go ahead and write per. And we know 70 total is your whole. Okay? So step one just says write proportions with labels. So we know we have 30% over 100 equals, well, we have a whole. We know the whole is going to be 70. And we have x. We'll put part at top as x. Step two, cross multiply. Draw your x. Draw your x. This is my favorite part right here. I enjoy this cross multiplication. And you have 100 times x equals 30 times 70. All right, so just simplify it a bit. 100x equals, and then just work it out off to the side. 30 times 70. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 7 is 0. Placeholder, 3 times 0 is 0. And 3 times 7 is 21. So you have 2100. All right, now we know we have to get x by itself. So we must divide by 100. And whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Divide by 100. Good. And now we have x equals, well, let's take a look. Let's make our division easier. We have two zeros on top and 2 on the bottom, so cross those 2 off. Cross those 2 off. And now we're left over with 21 over 1, which is also x equals 21. That's it. X equals 21. So 21 students. 21 students is your answer. 21 students is your answer. Let's go and try example 2. Example 2, EX2, says 5 of 25 boys can juggle. They can juggle. What percent can juggle? What percent of boys can juggle? All right, so just go ahead and jot down your labels. So you are looking at right proportions with labels. So we know that the 5 is your part, of 25 is your whole, and you have your percent. and you have your percent. So we have the information that we need to, well, write your proportions. So go ahead and write your proportions. 5 over 25, we have our part to whole, equals what percent? So we know all percents are out of 100, so our x must go on top. All right, step 2 just says cross multiply. This is my favorite part, cross multiply. Draw your x's, and just go ahead and jot it out. So 25 times x equals 5 times 100. So simplify that. You have 25x equals 500. All right, how do you get x by itself? Solve for x, divide by 25, and whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. Divide by 25, and just work it out. So off to the side, have your division, 500 divided by 25. Place your decimal. Okay, and how many times does 25 go into 5? Well, it can't. How many times does 25 go into 50? That's 2 times. 25 times 2 is 50. Subtract and you have 0. Well, bring down that 0, and if you bring it down, bring it right back up to the top. So your answer is x equals 20. That's it. X equals 20. So let's go and try another one here. Go ahead and write EX3. I'm going to write EX3. And EX3 says 16 M&Ms. Looking at M&Ms, chocolate M&Ms. So you have 16 M&Ms are green. Okay? 16 M&Ms are green. And then it says 10% are green. How many M&Ms are there? How many M&Ms in total? So step 1 says to write your proportions and labels. So we have 16, that is part. We know we have part. Here's a percent. Go ahead and write per. And in total, we know that is going to be our whole. That's our whole. All right. So we have our part, percent, and whole. So go ahead and jot down your proportions. We have part 16 over, we don't know our total yet, but go ahead and put your x, equals our percent 10, and we know all percents are out of 100. Okay, now it just says cross multiply. So draw your x and draw your x right there. And now we have 10 times x equals 100 times 16. So let's just simplify that a little bit. We have 10x equals 16 times 100 is 1600. Okay? So how do we get x by itself? Well, divide to find x. Divide by 10, and whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Good. Divide by 10, and x equals, let's take a look. Let's make our division a little bit easier if we can. Do we have 1 0 up here and 1 0 down here? We sure do. Cross it off, cross it off. And now we have 160 over 1, or x equals 160 M&Ms. That's it, 160 M&Ms. Let's go and try another one. I'm going to write EX4. And for EX4 says Jan watched, she watched 42 of 60-minute show. 60-minute show. What percent did she watch? What percent did she watch? Okay. So go and label your proportions. So we have 42. There is our part. Of 60 is your whole. And, oh, there's our percent. Go and write per. 4%. So we made our labels. All right, and just write them as your proportions. We have 42 over 60. That equals, well, we know all percents are out of 100, but we're looking at what percent. So go ahead and put X right there. Okay? And then just go ahead and draw your X's. Go ahead and draw your X's. So draw your X. This is a cool part. I enjoy this. Over your 60 equals X, and your 42 and 100. Then just go ahead and write it out. 60 times X equals 42 times 100. And let's simplify that a little bit better. So we have 60X equals 42 times 100 is 4,200. All right, and then step 3 just says divide to find X. So how do we get X by itself? Divide by 60, and whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. Divide by 60, and X equals, and then do we have a 0 over here on top and on the bottom? Better believe it. Cross that off, cross that off. Now we have X equals 420 over 6. So just go and work that out. You have 420 divided by 6. Place your decimal. How many times can 6 go into 4? Well, it can't. How many times does 6 go into 42? Well, that is 7. 6 times 7 is 42. Subtract, and that gives you 0. If you bring down that 0, you bring it right back up to the top, and your answer is X equals 70%. 70% watched. That's it. She watched 70% of her show. Must be a pretty good show. All right, go and try examples 5 and 6 on your own. Go and try example 5 and 6 on your own. Example 5 says, Ty shot 20 total baskets in basketball. 20 total baskets. He made 70%. It's pretty good. He's pretty good. He made 70% of his shots. How many shots did he make? Okay, and then number 6 says Mel made crafts. Mel made crafts. She made 15 crafts. 15 crafts. And that is 25% of her total. Okay, 15 is actually 25% of her total orders. Okay. How many total orders does she have? Go ahead and try numbers 5 and 6 on your own.